We're husband and wife and business partners who aren't afraid to live life on the edge.
I'm Ryan.
And I'm Juliana.
From success and wellness to candid conversations on travel, food, and culture, we're here for it all.
All right, here we go. We are so excited to have Stu McLaren here with us today. So Stu is the membership king. I mean, quite literally, you are the king of membership. And Stu's new book, Predictable Profits, shows us how to turn one-off sales into steady, recurring, and predictable income. So Stu, thank you so much again for being here.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. And congratulations on the book.
Thank you. I'm really proud of it. It took a while to finally, get it into a book format, but I'm really stoked. It's been received really well. And I just love hearing how it's beginning to impact business owners' lives, because that's the whole reason I wrote it, was to help alleviate the financial burden that so many business owners feel because they just don't know where the next sale is going to come from. And I know how to fix that. And it's with membership and recurring revenue. So that's why I'm stoked about the book.
It's fantastic. And you've been doing it yourself and you've been teaching it for years now.
Yeah, I'm like the hair club for men. Not only did I create the product, but I use it too.
You know what's so funny? I was literally just thinking, I was like, what was that phrase? Because I was thinking of it because that's how I feel. I can speak to your membership and, having a membership myself. So that was a good ESPN wavelength right there. But yeah, so I remember I first came across you. It's got to be like 6 or so years ago. I think I was maybe doing some online courses between like Julie Solomon, Jenna Kutcher, Susie Moore.
Okay, yeah.
And then you came into my orb, and the whole membership thing I just thought was so cool for many reasons. But that's when it was around the time I started a book club. So I've got a book club for luxury travel lovers, and I've done your programs, your courses. I'm the membership experience. What do you call us, your followers?
TME is the short form, so we call them teammates.
Yes, I'm one of your devout teammates. So I just was so excited when I came across you and in your ideas and thought, how much fun to be able to turn like a genuine love, whether, you have people in your membership that have all sorts of different companies and memberships across the board.
It's crazy, Juliana. Like, we have people who are in the most insane markets that I never even heard of. Like, one of the very first ones that really stood out for me was Tamara Bennett. And she launched her membership in the community. She makes a post and was sharing with everybody what she had done. She had welcomed over 400 members on her initial founding member launch. And it was helping people paint decorative door hangers. And I was like, what? And I said to Tamara, I'm like, what is a decorative? Is that like when I go to the hotel and I put like the do not disturb sign on the door? And she laughed. She's like, Stu, no. She said, here in the South, she said, most people decorate their front doors. So you may put like a wreath on your front door for Christmas or something like that. She said, here in the South, we put these decorative door hangers on the front of doors all year round. And I was like, wow. So she has, now she's got thousands of members and she's teaching them how to paint decorative door hangers. Or I think of like Holly George, she was or is a mom of young kids and her husband is away in the military a lot. So she wanted to earn some extra income for the family, but she couldn't go get a job because she's at home taking care of the young ones. So she starts a membership. It's called the Twisterhood. And she's teaching people how to make balloon animals, for crying out loud. And the crazy part is, it's a 6-figure a year membership, teaching people how to make balloon animals. So the markets are crazy and wild, and they never cease to surprise me. But it's super fun to see how people are making businesses with the stuff that they love.
It is pretty funny, and one of the things that I've come to realize more and more is you hear about these like super niche things, like, for example, making balloon animals. But how would you have learned how to make balloon animals? Well, I guess maybe you could watch some YouTube videos, but that's not very interactive. Right? And you don't really get a sense of community out of that. So what's your other alternative? Go to a clown school or something? That's totally fucking embarrassing. I don't want anyone to know I'm going to a clown school, but maybe I have a paid membership where I can learn how to do things. You can have fun with your kids. You can do a whole lot of stuff. That's pretty cool. The more and more when Juliana started her book club, I started to understand and started to realize that there's so many of these little niche things. And there's a lot of people in this world that you would never realize would have those same interests. And then all of a sudden you have these huge communities of like hundreds and hundreds of people that want to do the same thing and are willing to pay to be a part of a community that are doing that.
That to me is the beauty of the internet. You know, like
Yes.
before, you know, you could have like this weird interest and you'd be the only person in your town that had that interest. And you felt like this, like, you know, loner because nobody else shared the same passion for it. But the internet, it just connects all of us weirdos and wackos. So like, it doesn't matter like what passion or interest you have, like you can find others who have the same, you know, passions. And it is an opportunity. It's an opportunity to be able to create that safe place for people who have those shared interests. Like here's a crazy one. So there's a woman over in the UK in our community. Her name's Bonnie Snowden. And she teaches people how to draw realistic animals with colored pencils. So listen to how specific that is. Like, she's not teaching people how to draw in general. She's teaching people how to draw realistic animals, and she's very specific about what utensil they are using, which is colored pencils. She has a multi-million-dollar a year membership. She started it in 2021. By 23, it was $1 million membership. Now she does about $2.5 million a year. But she is so specific in who she serves inside that membership. And to your point, Ryan, she's got thousands of members. It just brings people together who want to be able to learn these things. And you're right, they could go on YouTube, but there's not the sense of community that there is inside of a membership where you're on this journey learning this thing together. And I think that's what one of the magical components of a membership is.
And going back to what you said, okay, so before the birth of the internet and the birth of internet memberships and everything, maybe there were a couple of people in your community that had a shared interest and maybe you get together and do this together. But not only do you have like the reach of the entire, say, continental United States,
Canada.
Let's even if English is your only language, you have the entire English-speaking world as your pool of potential members to be that might want to have interest in your whatever community you're offering. So let's say like out of 100 people, even if 0.5% had a true interest in it, even if you got down to that niche, well, okay, how is that, you know, not only in 330 million American people, but then yes, the rest of the English-speaking world is your market center.
And what's crazy now too, Ryan, is that technology is changing so fast that where we initially may think it's only the English market, now things are being translated in real time, making the market even bigger than ever before. So it's like, yes, somebody might be, you know, Spanish speaking or French speaking or German speaking, but now technology is like, you know, rapidly getting us to the point where I can teach in English and it is like translating real time into all these different languages, which means now we can reach so many more people and impact so many more people. So it's just a really incredible fun time. And the creator economy is booming. Like by 2027, this will be more than $1 billion industry. Like it is crazy how quickly it's growing. And, or sorry, not billion, trillion. That's what I meant to say.
Wow.
And it's a really, really exciting time because no matter what your passions and interests are, there's an opportunity to be able to create a business around it.
Yeah, no matter how weird or niche you think it is, like I guarantee you there are thousands of people that have that same interest. And out of those thousands and thousands, how many would be willing to be a part of that community?
For sure.
Yeah.
So Stu, how did you get into memberships? Because you worked with, who was it? It's a Full Focus company?
Yeah, Michael Hyatt. Yeah.
Michael Hyatt. Yeah, I love, you know, his products and everything as well. So tell us about that. How did you go from that to where we are today?
Well, so back in the day, so this was 2008. So I've been doing this a long time, but 2008, I had a consulting business and it was great. It was awesome. Like business was booming. But around that time, my wife and I started having conversations about having kids. And I wanted to have kids. Like I wanted to be a dad. Like that was, you know, top of my list. But every time we had that conversation, I could feel like this knot in my stomach. It was like, I don't know what, at the time I didn't know why I was feeling anxious about it. Like I wanted to have kids. Like why was I feeling anxious? Well, what I realized was that the thing that was making me anxious was I knew if I was going to be a dad, I wanted to be a present dad. I wanted to be there. I wanted to go to the soccer games. I wanted to, like tonight, I wanted to be able to go and watch my daughter who's Cinderella in the play. I wanted to go and watch my son this weekend. He's competing in the national championships for jump rope. And we're flying out to go watch. Like, I wanted to be there for these moments. And I also wanted to be there for like the in-between moments, like when we walk our kids to school every day and we have those conversations. And the business that I had at the time would never have allowed me to do that because I was trading my time for money and I was working late. I was up early and I knew that I had a great business, but I had a terrible business model. And so it was a conversation with a friend of mine who suggested that I teach what I was doing for my clients inside of a membership. And I didn't know what that was. I'm like, well, what are you talking about? He's like, Stu, just think about it this way. You would teach one lesson, and instead of it being one-on-one with a client, you teach once, and now hundreds or thousands of people could access that lesson, and they pay you every single month to keep helping them. And I'm like, that sounds like, a dream. And so that was the thing that got me on the road to memberships. It led to me ultimately creating my first software company, which went on to become the world's #1 membership plugin for WordPress. And it was just because there was nothing that was user-friendly, and I was moaning and groaning to a friend of mine. He said, well, why don't we create something together? And we ultimately did, and that just took off. And so then I'm behind the scenes of like tens of thousands of memberships, and I'm seeing like what works and what doesn't. Eventually, I sold my shares in that company, and I was kind of in this in-between place in my career, and a mutual friend introduced me to Michael Hyatt. And when we met, I asked, what's the biggest challenge in your business? And he said, Stu, I love what I get to do, and I love who I get to share it with. He said, but I'm tired. I just want to be home with my wife, Gail, and my kids and my grandkids. And so his business model at the time, he was just coming off a New York Times best-selling book, and he was traveling around the country speaking. So he would speak 30 to 40 times a year. So you add a day on the front and a day on the back for travel. It meant he was gone over 100 days a year.
Yeah.
So I said, I can help. And so we came together, we became business partners, and I helped him launch a membership that was targeted toward readers of his most recent book. And it took off. In the first week, we had 1,100 members. By the end of year 1, we had 2,500. By the end of year 2, we had 4,500. By the end of year 3, we had 6,000. Mm-hmm. And it had taken him 100 days on the road down to less than 15. And it was multi-million-dollar a year membership. And that's when, he and others began nudging me, especially my wife and my brother-in-law. They're like, you should teach this stuff. And a couple of years later, I ultimately started teaching it. And that's when we produced the membership experience with our course. And we haven't looked back since. And so that's kind of how it was my journey into the world. And now I'm in it. Now I'm passionate. Now I love it. That's why I wrote the book. I just want to help as many people as possible, add recurring revenue into their business, because I just see what it makes happen in their lives.
Mm-hmm. And you're the membership king. I think I heard you say before that did Tony Robbins go to you for advice on running a membership?
Yeah, that was
banana hands.
That was a unique and fun experience. So I was speaking at an event, and he was also speaking at the same event. And word got to me that Tony wanted to meet after his presentation to talk about his membership. So I was like, oh my gosh! And it was funny. My wife was at the event too. She's like, oh, I want to come. And I'm like, okay. But it's really weird. Like with Tony Robbins, he travels with like all these crazy security entourage and just like a whole thing. Anyways, I got permission. Amy and I go backstage. Tony and I had I was jamming with him for about 30 minutes and talking to him about the membership. And we got, pictures and stuff. There's a funny story about that. I'll tell you in a minute. But afterwards, his business partner, Dean Graziosi, also reached out. And then I've since gone down and done multiple consultations with them about their membership. They had me come speak at one of their virtual events, and there was 13,000 people live virtually. It was an amazing experience, but they really care about their people and doing a great job there.
Yeah, that's so cool. You've been around and you do lots of speaking events in general. And have you hosted some retreats as well?
Yeah, we host experiences and retreats, and we host our masterminds. We have 2 levels of masterminds. So one is for people who are running 6 and 7 figure memberships.
Yeah.
And then the other is our Impact Mastermind. That's for people that are running 7 and 8 figure memberships. So Tony and Dean, they actually are part of my highest level mastermind. They have somebody on their team. They have 40,000 plus members inside their membership. It's just fun because we get to see behind the scenes of like these uber successful memberships and what they're doing, what's working right now. And that's how I keep my finger on the pulse of the industry.
Yeah. And how often is it? It's not too often where you have you open up the doors to new members. Is it once a year?
The traditional way in which we have done our flagship course is we open it one time a year. I like that because everybody comes in and we're in it as a cohort and we go through the whole experience together, and it's designed to help move people to the point of launching their membership. It's not to say that we'll always keep it that way. We're always open what's working in the moment, but that's traditionally why we've always done it that way.
Yeah. Well, it's really great. And you have another opening coming up. Is it the 18th of this month?
Yeah, it is. And it's like my Super Bowl of the year. I just absolutely love this time of year, being able to just pour into people. I was just talking to a woman during our free workshop. We were talking about the founding member launch. I was walking people through it. She's launched her founding member launch. She already has 13 people at $97 a month who raised their hand and said yes. So that's $1,300 a month. That's over 15 grand a year from one message that she posted out to her audience. And that's during the free workshop, So like that stuff lights me up. Like I love watching people get out of their own way and just make it simple for them to be able to implement and get results and start getting that recurring revenue coming into their business.
Right. And presumably something like that, if that person has a day job, they could probably still keep that. And that's just supplemental income on a side hustle, right?
Yes,
and then eventually that grows and grows.
Like it doesn't take much. Like when we think about it, like if you had 20 members at $50 a month, like just 20, that's $1,000 a month right out of the gate.
Yeah.
Like that's the beauty about memberships, is that it's not like a one-time sale. That's now coming in every single month and it just compounds. And so it is a shift in thinking as a membership as a business owner. But once you make that shift, you start to ask yourself, like, how did I ever do business without recurring revenue?
Yeah. Well, I love the title of the book, Predictable Profits, because that's what it is. And you really break it down within the book for ways that people can actually implement this into their own lives. So it's really cool. And what I love too is that it is income, clearly, but like we talked about before, it's that sense of community. I mean, it's so much fun just being around people and speaking with people all the time that share these interests and, value your opinions and your information that you're sharing with them. So it's just such a fun way to be an entrepreneur. And I'm always trying to encourage people to start memberships or look at this guy on Instagram, Stu McLaren. Because anytime someone has something they're really passionate about, I'm like, you could make that a membership.
Totally. You start seeing it everywhere, right? It's just like,
it's true.
Yeah. My daughter, it's funny, she rides horses competitively. And, my wife and I, obviously we support her in that journey. And, but it's an expensive sport. And so we said to her, we're like, look, okay, Mom and I will pay for you to compete in 2 shows a year. And each show is anywhere between $1,500 to $2,500. And she came to us the other day and she's like, I really want to compete in more shows. And we're like, awesome. Like, okay, let's figure out how you can pay for that. And she's like, oh, no. Like, I thought maybe you and Mom could, pay for it. And we're like, yeah, we know that you would think that. But we want to teach you skills on how to be able to create for yourself. So she was thinking about it, and I, we were encouraging her to just ask the question, like, how could you pay for these 2 shows? And then that kind of flips her brain on. Well, she was coming up with different ideas, and my whole time I'm just like, girl, let's start a membership. You wouldn't need that many members. You could do a membership about horses and taking care of horses, the thing that you love anyway. And so that's what just is so fun. It's just you got a passion and interest. It can be fun. By the way, universe, we want it to be fun. We want it to be fun. We want it to be profitable, and we're open to the easy ideas that allow us to do that. And
do you want to hear something really funny? Because you just mentioned your daughter. So our daughter's 12. And she had her first paid babysitting gig the other day.
Oh,
And
snap.
she
was a big one.
loved it. And, it was one of our friend's kids. So our friend paid her very generously. And
Cold hard cash too.
Cold hard
Not
cash.
Venmo. She
And
got to touch the money.
She's looking at it and she's just in complete just awe. And I'm like, you like that, huh? And then she's like, yeah, can I babysit more? And then I'm thinking, because honestly, you've trained me, which is so fun. I'm like, you could do a membership for young girls getting into babysitting and like just some kind of cool way, targeting other people, preteens, early teens.
Yeah.
And so, now my mind just goes like that. And it's so great because it totally works.
I love when kids get turned on to entrepreneurship early and they start to develop that, just the ability that they can get whatever they want. They just got to figure out how to go about doing it. And, the earlier the kids can get turned on to that, the better. And so I love hearing how your daughter, is now like experienced this. And now it's just like, oh my gosh, this is actually really cool. Like now I can go buy the things I want to get. I don't have to ask mom or dad or hope that mom and dad are going to say yes. Now I can actually like just take control of myself and earn the money myself.
Yeah, they started off with lemonade stands. And like the first day, like, I mean, look, we were all kids. I think I've done a lemonade stand before. I did not expect the first time my kids did a lemonade stand to go sit at the end of our driveway and make $120 in one afternoon. Like, what? Like, how did you? Like, yeah, one guy gave us a 20.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that is so fun.
Then they were so excited and they wanted, can we go get ice cream? It's like, yeah, we'll buy it. It's like, all right, man. Yeah, go, reap the benefits of your hard work.
Yeah.
Sure.
So Stu, we homeschool our kids. So we're a little unconventional, in many different ways, but they see now some older, whether it's family members or friends that are getting their first jobs, like, bussing tables at local restaurants and, some more labor intensive work. So I'm always trying to make sure, as we're homeschooling them, to really instill the entrepreneurial, nature and just kind of show them the opportunities that are there.
I think it's beautiful. Similarly, we have conversations like we were at a restaurant as a family the other day. It's one of our favorite restaurants we go to as a family, but it's definitely not one that we go to all the time. It's much more, expensive, like point blank, it's much more expensive. And so anyway, we always involve the kids in terms of like asking them, how much do you think we should tip? Like, was this good service, bad service? Like, what is a good tip? What's a bad tip? We always have those conversations. And most recently, we were at this restaurant, and again, I asked the kids, what do you think we should tip? And my daughter's like, I think you should give like a good tip on this one, like 20%. She was awesome. She was really great. Cool. So I showed her like what that meant on the bill. And then I said to her, I'm like, now let me ask you a question. Knowing that the tip is a percentage of the bill, I'm like, do you think it's better to work in a restaurant that has cheaper price food or more expensive food if you're trying to make the most? And she's looking at it, she's like, well, definitely like more expensive food. And I'm like, exactly. Like, it's just like those little lessons, you know what I mean? It's just like, it's teaching them.
Yeah, but what's the turnover rate on the tables?
Yeah, good. Fair point. But I think that talking about money, talking about how to use your brain to be able to make money, I think it's super powerful for kids to be able to learn that and to learn that early. And because then they will start to see opportunity. And that's where the fun really begins.
Yeah, we kind of started that a couple years back with our kids, just trying to get them to think a little bit outside the box. It was funny. Our son, this was a couple of years ago, he had this idea to try and make money to go around our neighborhood. We have about 175 homes in our neighborhood. And it's like a flat neighborhood. It's kind of easy to walk around on. And it was just go around. I kind of helped them with it, knock on people's doors and ask them if they would want him to walk the garbage bins down to the end of the driveway every Wednesday morning.
That's amazing.
And for like $4 a week.
Yeah.
But if you got like 50 of them, that's $200 a week. And for an 8-year-old, that's kind of amazing.
Yeah.
Little problem with that plan was that he was 8 years old. So most of the neighbors are like, come back in a couple of years.
See, my natural reaction is like, oh no, I want to find a way he can do something similar, not moving the garbage cans, but something online. Like I love, like you mentioned the internet before, it's just limitless.
We had one father and son in our community. His name was, the son's name was Rylan. And he created a Lego membership. And the crazy part about it was he started generating thousands of dollars a month. And then he sold it. He sold his Lego membership for 6 figures before he was 12 years old. Isn't that crazy? And it's just like, it's mind-boggling. But, again, comes back to the fact that the internet is just this incredible resource. Like, we live in an amazing time. As much as crazy as the world is, like, if we just take a step back and just appreciate the fact that you and I, we can have a conversation right now about an idea, and literally, like, within hours, we could launch that idea online and we could start generating revenue. Like, that is unprecedented. Like, a generation ago would never have had that kind of opportunity. And so I never take that for granted. And to your point, Juliana, like, I'm always obsessed about looking for online ideas and ways to be able to make, because it is so fast, so efficient, and profitable. Like, I have a buddy who's owns multiple restaurants, and man, it's like squeezing any profit out. Like, it is hard.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, man,
restaurant owning is never something I think it's.
Yeah. It's just like, man, we're so blessed to be able to have these kinds of businesses and this opportunity.
Yeah. But I think, it is true. Like, almost anybody, you can take a single idea and you can try to make some money on it. But I think, like, the difference between it being like a flash in the pan, like, oh, this is a quick thing, and like the longevity of creating a community, the number one driver in that, in my opinion, is going to be your passion. Like, you have to figure out something that you're super passionate about, that you're going to put a whole lot of focus in and make it like, this is what I want to do. And this is what I want to do to try to, like, change lives and build a community and everything.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like, I 100% agree with you. I think that is an important ingredient. And then I also think about, like, examples like, Scott. He has a multi-million-dollar membership in a market that he is not an expert in and has zero interest in.
Wow.
And so basically,
Well, then I guess I'm wrong, Stu. What do you want?
Well, okay, so basically here's how this kind of panned out. Like, he was in our community, and he's a lawyer by trade. So he's a lawyer for nonprofit organizations. And he just had an interest, like, okay, what could a membership potentially look like? So he joined our community, and the ideas were percolating, but he didn't have anything come, a source of inspiration that just hit him directly. But then his buddy Ryan, they were at a backyard barbecue, and Ryan is a dentist, and he's a really good dentist, but he's really tall as well. So he was complaining to Scott that his back was starting to hurt because he was over his patients like all day, every day. And Scott says, well, why don't you teach other dentists what you've done to grow your practice? Because Ryan is like the Michael Jordan of Invisalign. And like, most dentists, they'll do like 6 to 7 procedures a year. Ryan will do 600 procedures in a year. And so Scott's like, dude, why don't you teach this stuff? Initially, Ryan's like, no, I don't want to do that. Another year passes by, same barbecue, same complaint. Scott says, Ryan, you should teach this in a membership. Now he's open to the idea. They launch it together, and they didn't have an audience, to immediately go to. So they had to build the audience. It took a little bit of time, but now it's a multi-million-dollar a year membership. And his it's an expensive membership. Like, it's several $1,000s a year to be part of it. But what's happened is that Ryan doesn't have to worry about like the membership side of things, like in terms of growing it and marketing it and so forth. He's just like there to teach. He's the expert, the teacher, so to speak. Scott, his whole job is to grow it and manage it, very similar to what I did with Michael Hyatt. Michael was the talent. I was the behind the scenes. Scott did the same thing, and they've got this multi-million-dollar membership. Meanwhile, that's his side gig because he's still a corporate lawyer. So,
wow.
The opportunities are there because there's tons of ways in which you can structure a membership about things you're passionate about, for sure, things you got interest in, but also in helping others be able to get their passions and interests out to the world.
Well, I mean, to that part, maybe he does have a passion in growing a business and seeing how he can be useful and effective to Ryan and help him do that. Similarly, like, Juliana has her book club. I'm not particularly directly involved in her book club. Like, I'm not on the Zoom meetings. I'm not part of that community directly, but I do help a lot. I help Juliana a lot on the background.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
So, and that's something that I always find passionate and I find exciting and interesting, is like how to help her grow that community and grow that what she's doing with that business and stuff.
It's a great point. Yeah, great point.
And Stu, you and your wife works with you as well, right? And you have a book club too, I saw, which I thought was so funny.
Yeah, we do. And our book club, it's bookmembership.com is it. And it started because we started noticing the stack of books on our bedside table started getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and we weren't reading them. And one night we were moaning and groaning and complaining, and I was just like, gosh, like there's all these great books. I want to read them, but I just find like I never have time for it. So ultimately what we did was we created a book membership to help us read more. And we don't read like a whole bunch of books. We read 6 books a year, 6.
Okay.
So 1 every 2 months, but we go deep in these books. And so we have a mastermind about it. We discuss it. And then we actually bring the author of the books on, and we have a discussion with them about their books too. So yeah, super fun.
That's great. Yeah, very similar. I remember I saw that because, when people think of, starting a community or starting a membership, I think that they may be like, what do I do? Where do I start this on? And it was funny because I saw, my membership it's not something where people are necessarily joining because they want to advance their business, but it's really, it's a passion thing. It's an interest, it's a commonality, it's a community thing. And so I saw that you had that, and I was like, oh, well, if the king of memberships, he does that, then it's cool that mine is, I'm on the right path.
Yeah, for sure you are. And okay, so let me ask you, what made the idea tick for you to start your membership?
Well, it was 2020, and it was when we had all these trips planned that were canceled naturally. And we're big travelers, like I mentioned to you before. So I don't know what it was, maybe something about just listening to the different podcasts of these entrepreneurs, working from home and things. I was like, it would be so cool if I could bring a bunch of people who have the same interests as me in traveling and bring them together, and we can travel through books. So each month we read a book that takes place in a different part of the world. And, we meet with the authors, and there might be, some recipes that we'll try from those locations and things like that. But it started as a way for us to be able to travel from home. And then it just stuck. And now it's like, okay, so even though we can travel, it's nice to be traveling year round. Even when we're home, we can, mentally go somewhere else.
That's a super cool concept. I love it.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks. It's a lot of fun. We're doing a retreat, an in-person retreat this year. So again, I get to meet all these great people that now I have, more interesting friends with common interests. So it's such a good concept.
Is this your first time bringing everybody together in person?
Yes. Yep.
Oh my gosh, you're in for a treat.
Yeah, I'm excited.
The people in our community who combine the online and offline together, they see all kinds of magic happen. Like it just cements and deepens the relationships because there's a relationship that's already been formed. Right. But it goes to a whole nother level when you see and interact with the people in person. And the depth of those relationships is really going to explode, which in a tremendously positive way. So I'm super stoked for you. You have to keep me posted on it.
Yeah, absolutely will.
It should be interesting because ultimately it's a membership, built around a passion for books and travel.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But it's really people from all walks of life that are part of this membership. So it's going to be really interesting and really, really fun.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Good for you guys.
Thank you. So what do you say for someone that, might be thinking they want to start a membership? And I know I always hear with people thinking of new business ideas like, the markets are so oversaturated. There's already this, there's already this. How do you find people can really stand out in, a market where, like we were talking about the internet, there's so much already there?
Yeah, there is. And there's a lot of free information, whether it's on YouTube and podcasts. Now with ChatGPT, you could ask to give it the 5 steps for XYZ and it spits it all out. Yeah. So there's definitely that like thought process or that fear of like, well, why would anybody pay for this? Yeah. But at the end of the day, here's what I want people to realize. There's a huge gap between knowing what to do and how to do it and actually getting the result. So I'll give you like just an extreme silly example. Let's say that I want to become an elite swimmer. And I'm watching all kinds of YouTube videos on how to become an elite swimmer. Does that mean that the next time I get in the pool, I'm going to be the next Michael Phelps? Of course not, right? Like, it sounds obvious. Like, I got to be able to get into the pool, but then I need somebody saying, hey, Stu, like, head down. Hey, Stu, get your butt down. Hey, Stu, reach farther in your strokes. Like, that's where the person is guiding and bridging the gap between knowing the information and actually being able to implement the information. So that's the opportunity for so many of us. That's number one. Number two is that in today's world, there's a lot of divisiveness. And what people are craving is a safe community where they can just share interests with others. Like, I think of your book club. Like, think of that. You got this incredible safe place where people who have a passion for travel and books can come together and they can talk and they can interact and they can, share those passions with one another without the concern and worry about them being viewed as different or this way or that way. And people crave that. And that is not available anywhere else in the same way that it can be inside of a membership. So the thing that will make your membership stand out is really two things. Number one is, at the end of the day, if you just obsess over the progress that people are making toward whatever outcome or transformation, if they're experiencing progress, they will not leave. Like, the way that I view it is like, we're in the happiness business. Like, as long as people are happy, then they're going to continue to pay. So we just got to ask ourselves the question, okay, what do we need to do inside of our membership to continue to make happy? And progress is one of those big contributing factors. If people feel like they're moving closer and closer toward what they're trying to achieve, they will not leave. Like, I've never heard anybody saying, you know what, Ryan, you know what, Juliana, I'm out of this membership because I'm experiencing too much success. Like, people don't say that, right?
Yeah, I'm having too much fun.
And too much fun. So they will stay as long as they're experiencing progress. That's number one. And then number two is that studies have shown that if people have a positive experience in the first 30 days of a membership, it will on average triple the lifetime value of that member. Now, what I know to be true is that one of the contributing factors of somebody having a positive experience is connection, is them forming a deep, meaningful relationship. And probably the best way to explain this is my family, we moved to a new area a few years ago, and you guys have kids. You could probably, I know you homeschool them, but you could probably, get a sense when the kids went to the new school, there was all kinds of anxiety and nerves and at the end of the day, as parents, we just wanted them to feel settled. Like, that was job one. So we walk the kids to school and we drop them off, and Amy and I are like, just please let this be a good day for them. Like, let them just feel comfortable and settled. And we come back at the end of the day to pick them up, and our daughter comes running out first, and she's got this huge smile on her face. And I was like, oh, I said to her when she got close, I said, Marla, how is the school? She's like, Dad, this is the best school ever. I'm like, really?
Wow.
I'm like, tell me why. She's like, well, you know how I used to go to a Montessori school? I said, yeah. She said, there's a girl in my class that also used to go to a Montessori school too. I'm like, that's amazing. She's like, yeah. And you know how I love riding horses? I said, yeah. She's like, she rides as well. I'm like, what? And she's like, and Dad, check this out. She said, you know the new stable that I'm riding at? I said, yeah. She's like, her mom owns the stable. I'm like, what? I'm like, get out of town. She's like, Dad, this is the best school ever.
Aww.
Now, time out. What made it the best school ever in her mind had nothing to do with the school.
Of
It had everything to do with the fact that she formed one meaningful relationship. And so that connection can frame up somebody's entire experience. I was just talking to a woman in our community this morning. She was interviewing me, and she was saying how in our community, she's developed all kinds of relationships and connections. And she's had, a bunch of the people in our community speak at her conference and at her event. I've had groups of people in our community who have become lifelong friends who now vacation together. And this is part of the stickiness that creates and separates our communities from every other option that people have available. So those two factors, helping people experience progress toward their goal And number two, helping them form meaningful relationships. If you do those two things and just focus on those two things, your membership will stand out head and shoulders above everything else.
That's a great answer. And yeah, I can see that, how that, rings true. That's phenomenal.
Yeah, the first point you made, going back like 10 minutes, was kind of funny to me, because those are conversations that you and I have had directly, going back to, I guess the overall theme would be accountability. So if you're, in a membership we've done memberships before, sort of business oriented memberships.
Where we've been members, you mean?
Yeah. But let's say, for example, anybody could say, hey, I want to go to like a Tony Robbins conference. Like, you don't have to be part of his membership, right? He sells tickets. You can go there for a one-time thing. But then when you leave that conference, like, you could have had the best experiences, or, multiple masterminds, gotten a lot out of it. But then ultimately it's on you to continue that.
Totally.
Or like back in the day, let's say one of the examples Juliana and I've spoken to about this was, say, for example, the forum. Right? If you wanted to take part of that, you could have gone out to San Francisco for a week, gone to the forum, but then when you leave, it's really on you. But now with like building continuous communities, it's like that you have not only more access to those experiences, but you also have the accountability of having to be sort of having more agency over yourself to make sure you're doing that. Because when you go back to that community over and over again, like, it's going to keep you on track. It's going to keep you focused. So, and there's a huge value on that, especially if you're doing something that like Tony Robbins or something like that. That's like, you're going there because you want to improve some other parts of your life. You want to improve your business.
And you want to continue that momentum. Yeah.
And not a lot of people in this world are are self-starters, are able to keep that focus without that continued reminders or that continued visit back to the community to keep you on track.
And a lot of the time too, Ryan, like, people will have questions, right? So it's like, as they're implementing, they'll have questions. And what I know to be true is that if somebody has a question, even if it's like the teeny tiny little question that you think is insignificant, they will stop making progress until that question is answered. It's like that question, the answer to that question becomes an obsession. So until they get the answer, it's like all progress just comes to a screeching halt. And so that's another reason why memberships are super valuable, because we can alleviate that tension very quickly by continuing to help answer questions, keep people moving forward and experiencing progress. And so, yeah, it's about maintaining that momentum that you talked about. And it's about, the accountability and the support and helping people just continuously implement and experience the progress.
Going back to the book, what would you say if there was one mindset shift from predictable profits that someone new to memberships could take to really change their business overnight? What do you think that might be?
The mindset shift would be to move away from one-time transactions and look to find ways in which you can do business with the same customer again and again and again. A good example of that is like if you had a product-based business, the Dollar Shave Club, they took razors, like men's razors. And instead of hoping that customers come back and buy again, they created a membership where now those razors get sent to customers every single month. Or I think of like Mary Claire Fredette in our community. She's got a service-based membership. She is a massage therapist. So same thing. Instead of hoping that customers come back, she created a membership where members pay a monthly fee and they get a certain number of massages each month at a slight discount. Well, what that does is it's a benefit for the customers. They get the discount. It's also a benefit for her because she has predictable recurring revenue coming in every month. It's not an up and down hoping that people are going to come in. And so that would be the overarching lesson. It's just like, how do you move away from one-time transactions? How do you move toward recurring transactions where you're serving the same customers again and again and again, and really just going deeper with them? Now, I obviously love knowledge-based memberships. Those are the fastest, they're the easiest to be able to get started with and to launch. And they're also some of the most profitable because, as we talked about earlier, like, we're living in a digital world and we get paid for these digital products, and the profit margins on them are just, through the roof. But regardless, whether you've got a product-based business, service-based business, or a knowledge-based business, people are willing to pay for it on a recurring every single month, as long as you hit one of three factors. Like I'm always looking for, 3 indicators of a great membership market. And so whenever I'm consulting, like I reserve 1 day a month for VIP consulting. And whenever I'm consulting somebody on launching a new membership, I'm looking for these indicators. Number one is like, are you in a market where you can solve an ongoing problem? And what I mean by that is like, weight loss as an example. Somebody's not going to go from being overweight to their ideal weight like that. It takes time to solve that problem.
And
Accountability too, right? Relationships would fall into that bucket. You're not going to go from a terrible relationship to an amazing relationship like that. It takes time. Or training a dog. You're not going to go from a puppy that's wildly out of control to the perfect puppy. It takes time to solve that problem. So that's first indicator is, are you in a market where they're experiencing an ongoing problem? If yes, great, move forward. Second indicator I'm looking for is, can you teach a skill? So again, you're not going to go from not knowing how to paint to becoming a great artist like that. It takes time to learn those skills. Or building a business. Not going to go from not knowing how to do it to becoming, building an incredible business. It takes time to learn those skills. Or drawing or playing an instrument or whatever it might be. So skill development is another one that I'm always looking for. And then the third indicator that I'm looking for is, can you make somebody's life more convenient or simple or easy? This is where like we've got a lot of people in our community who have memberships for teachers. So I think of Caitlin and Jessica. They've got a membership providing lesson plans for middle school teachers. Or Anna DeGilio. She has a membership providing lesson plans for grade 2 teachers. Or Patty Palmer, lesson plans for art teachers. They're making their lives, those teachers' lives easier because now teachers don't have to go and do it. Or Julie Soul. She has a membership site for homeschooling parents, providing art lesson plans. So again, super creative lesson plans for parents to do with their kids at home, but the parents don't have to think about what to do. They can just join Julie's membership and she serves it up on a platter for them. So she's making their lives easier. So you can do this with lesson plans, or I think of Nicole Melton, who's got a membership providing social media templates to businesses in the beauty profession. So they don't have to think about what to post on social media. She's providing it for them. They make a couple tweaks and they're off to the races. So if you can create convenience for people, that's also another great indicator. And then finally, like all of those can be wrapped up in community. We've talked extensively about the importance of community. If you can just create the safe place for people, that's another really tremendous indicator of a membership that can thrive long term. So I'm always looking for, can I solve an ongoing problem? Can I teach a skill? Can I create convenience? Or can I create community? And if you say yes to any of those, then you're in a great market for a membership.
You've got a plan. Yeah, that's true. And now what would you say if someone says, okay, so I've got my idea, it hits one of those 4, indicators that I can do this. Where do I get my first 100 members?
Well, I would tell them, first step, definitely go get the book.
Yeah.
I'm joking, but legit, I'm serious, because in chapter 16, it's called the fastest and easiest way to launch your membership. And I walk you through a process called the founding member launch. And that is the fastest way to get your idea out into the world before you've created anything. So as I mentioned, we're in the middle of our free workshop right now. And people literally hours after hearing me teach that lesson have now gone and done their founding member launch and welcomed paying members before they've created anything. And so that's what I want you to do, because I want you to validate the idea before you go spend a whole bunch of time, energy, and effort creating something before you know whether people actually want it. And oftentimes people will say to me, okay, Stu, but what if I put it out there and nobody says yes? Because that could happen. But I'm like, okay, isn't that great that you find that out before you go and spend a whole bunch of time, energy creating something?
Of course.
Right?
Yes. The worst case scenario here.
Yeah.
And then we just go back to the drawing board and we just rework it, because clearly what we're saying is out of alignment with what the market wants. So all we got to do is we just got to tweak that messaging to get in alignment, and then we'll get the response that we're looking for. So That's the thing, Juliana. I would encourage people to go from idea to validating the idea as quickly as possible. And then from there, it's just a process of, launching, relaunching, growing, and scaling. There's all kinds of ways to do it. But the most important thing is to validate the idea as quickly as possible.
I don't know what percentage of it is, but I mean, how many people don't start a business because they're afraid it might not do well?
It's high, right. I'm sure.
And how would you ever know if you just don't do it? I mean, how many people just sit on the sideline because they're too afraid to jump in?
And you're 100% right, Ryan. It's just like, and that's the thing that breaks my heart. Like you watch people where literally months, years, decades even go by where they've had this idea, but they just haven't had the courage to put it out there. Like I'm thinking of, I'm not going to say her name, but one of my wife's friends. We've talked to her extensively about launching a membership. She's in a market that hits not one, but multiple of those indicators that would make it a great membership. She's an expert in her field, but every time we had that conversation, there's a different reason why she's not wanting to launch it. And it has nothing to do with the tactics and strategies. It's everything to do with the gremlins, the voices up in her head that are saying that she's not ready yet, that she needs to wait until she's got certified in this other area yet, or that she's not technical enough, or that she doesn't have, her audience isn't big. Like she has all these reasons. And it's heartbreaking because she has all the ingredients to make this incredible community and membership. But you and I both know it's very rarely the tactics or strategies. It's almost always the mental game.
And it's never going to be perfect. Timing is never going to be perfect. Your plan's never going to be perfect. And there's so many people that just, if it's not perfect, they're not going to do it.
Well, that's one of the other reasons that I love, your tactic of going forward, because I'm very impulsive in that way, especially. And I think a lot of people, entrepreneurial minds.
She's all gas, no brakes.
That works
no
like
brakes.
That. I get an idea. I'm like, oh, I'm so excited. I'm like totally focused on it. And I'm like, yeah, let's go. So I'm the opposite. I'm not like, oh, it has to be perfect. I'm like, no, this is great. And I love that, you testing the audience out the gate because it makes you do it.
Well, and I think that today we can go from idea to like getting something out really quickly. And
hours.
Yeah.
And
to your point,
presumably you could do it with almost very little cost, right? So what's the actual capital cost to get an idea out there to gauge interest?
Nothing. You could send a message, post a message on a free social media platform where you have people, and you don't need massive audiences. Like you don't need tens of thousands or thousands. Like a couple hundred people following you on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok, YouTube channel, podcast, like whatever it might be, email list, past clients. Like you don't need massive audiences to get traction. Like I think of, there's so many people in our community, but Jennifer Chamberlain would be a great example. She wanted to create a membership that helped women her age reconnect with their creativity, because her kids had left home, like they were older, they had left for college and moved on so that, she had older kids, and she was feeling that like empty nest, syndrome. And so she picked up the paintbrush again. And this was something that she did like decades earlier, but just lost touch with it over time. And she just her creativity just came, flooding back, and it just lit her up. And she's like, I want to share this with other women my age. Now, she didn't have a big following. She wasn't a businesswoman. She wasn't any of those things that, you normally like gravitate toward an idea, but she just had a passion to bring these women together. So she started, and she had people that followed her on Facebook, like friends, family, and other colleagues, whatever, but she definitely had more than 200. And so she started, and it began with 21 founding members. After the first year, that grew to just over 100. After this year 2, it grew to just over 200. And at that point, there was like an identity shift. It was like she started to realize, like, you know what? Like, I am a businesswoman. Like, I can do this thing. Like, I am doing well here.
Yeah.
And that third year, she went from 200 members to more than 2,000 members.
Wow.
And I share this because that multi-million-dollar membership was never, ever in her vision. She never ever perceived it would end up being a multi-million membership. And it all started with 21 founding members. And so I share this because too often we get fixated on what we can't do or what it can't be. Instead, just start small and just hold space for what it could potentially turn into. And maybe it starts with just a handful of founding members in the beginning. But you love on them, they begin to get incredible results, and now you got these amazing stories to tell. And those stories begin helping you attract more and more members. Then you eventually get to the point where you're getting together with your members in person, and they're raving about the experience. And now that membership's growing to hundreds of members, thousands of members, and beyond. But it all starts with just your willingness to put the idea out there and see what happens.
Yeah. And I also think sometimes people get way too ahead of themselves when they do start something new with any business. But let's take it like members and let's use that example. If she started that and was like, I want to build out a membership that's going to be 2,000 plus members and everything. And after the first year, she only had, 100. How many people quit? How many people say, oh, it didn't work?
Yeah.
It didn't work. I'm just going to let it fizzle out. I'm going to let it go. But like, things don't happen overnight. And no matter what we're doing, we're talking about sort of like the ease of it, how convenient it is. We work from home, use the internet, leverage all technology and everything. But at the end of the day, you're still running a business. And if you want it to be something, then sure, it's going to take a lot of work. But it is pretty impressive sometimes when you hear stories like that. It's like, yeah, no, I never intended to build out a multi-million-dollar business.
Yeah.
It just kind of happened that way.
That's fun.
And those are sort of the most enjoyable stories for me to hear.
And to that point, Ryan, it starts somewhere,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like I was thinking, my wife and I were having this conversation the other day because we started a charity 16 years ago. And we had no clue what we were doing. It was just an idea. We were watching, Oprah had this show called The Big Give. And she would go into a community and they would donate a bunch of money and transform a family's life. And we loved watching that show and we're super inspired by it. And one night after we watched it, Amy turned to me and she said, I want to do the same thing. But she said, I want to do it in a community in a developing country because she loves travel. You guys would jam. She loves travel. And
we're hanging out. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. And I was like, okay. I'm like, well, sure. Like, let's go for it. And she said, no, I'm serious. She's like, I'll figure out where we're going to go and what we're going to do. You're the business guy. You figure out how to raise some money. And I was like, okay. So we did like this online fundraiser. We raised $14,000. And the very first community that we found was way up in the mountains of El Salvador. And after that experience, I looked at her on the flight home and I said, okay, I get this. Like, let's figure this out. And it ultimately led us to Kenya. We don't know why, we can't explain it, but we had a heart for Africa. And so we ended up in Kenya and she wanted to build a first school. And the first school, we had no idea how we'd raise the money, no idea how we would do it, but we figured it out. And now, 16 years later, we are working on our 17th school as it stands right now. And
wow.
That's incredible.
This is a picture of Amy and I. We're opening our 16th school. This is an all-girls high school. 900 girls will go to this school. And this is the president of Kenya. Like, the president of the country. Like, it was crazy pants. But anyway,
that's great.
I share this because to the point that you made earlier, Ryan, like, when we began that, there's no way that we were at a place where we could even envision creating a nonprofit and charity that was, providing schools education for more than 5,000 plus kids. That wasn't on the radar. It was just like, we just wanted to help like with this one project. And then that one project led to the next project and the next school and the next school and the next school. And that's how life typically evolves, right? Mm-hmm. But if we don't take that first step, if we don't float that idea out, we never, ever can get to the point where it turns into something incredible. And so I encourage people, when you're in those beginning stages, just think of it as an experiment. It's not the be all end all. If it's the be all end all, you end up putting all this pressure on yourself and it's got to be perfect, it's got to be this, and you start to overthink and overanalyze. But if it's just an experiment, then you don't feel the same pressure. It's just like, if it works, amazing. And if it doesn't, no big deal. Like, we just move on.
especially if you're enjoying yourself while doing it.
Yeah, exactly. I think that too many people, to both of what you're both saying, get hung up on overthinking, overanalyzing. And there are so many great ideas that never see the light of day because people just don't give them a chance. And if they just give them a chance, think of it as an experiment, float the idea out, and then just see what happens and hold space for best case scenario.
Well, everyone we know is getting one of your books this year. So we're always, trying to encourage people to come, put their idea in motion and make it into something.
Well, I appreciate that, guys. Thank you so much.
Cool. And it's cool. Once you sort of get yourself into that mindset, it's really cool how your brain starts to function and see things a little bit differently. And you see avenues and see openings and see opportunity in a different way.
Totally. Yeah.
Well, Stu, you are an inspiration. Thank you so very much. And by the way, what's the name of that charity?
It's called Village Impact. So you can find it at villageimpact.com or on Instagram, Village Impact. We're both there.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah, congratulations. That's wonderful.
And since you guys love to travel, you should come with us. Every 2 years, we take a group of people to go and see all of our schools in Kenya. We're going this year is one of the trips, but you should totally put it on the radar because since you guys love to travel, it's a pretty incredible experience.
How cool! Well, we have lots more. I mean, we could hang out and talk about all kinds of fun stuff together. So we got to do that. This is so great. Well, thank you, Stu. And so where can people find you? I mean, I know where to find you, but where can everyone else find you online?
I'm always online on Instagram. That's where I hang out. I personally hang out. I answer my own DMs. I answer questions all the time. But Instagram is just my name, Stu McLaren. But if you want it even easier, just take my first name, Stu, STU.me. That's my website. That'll lead to all the things, and you'll be able to find all the bits and pieces from there. But stu.me.
Even better. And your book is pretty much available everywhere. Of course, Amazon, all that jazz.
Yeah, Amazon. And one request I would make for anybody that does grab the book and read the book, would you be open to leaving a review on Amazon? Because that helps all of us authors. And that would be a huge, huge help. But that's where you can find it. All those places.
Easy peasy.
Cool.
I'll put my review in as soon as we hang up.
Amazing.
Yeah. Well, Stu,
thank you both, guys. Appreciate you.
Wonderful. Well, look forward to seeing you in real life soon. And thank you again.
And that wraps up this episode of On the Edge with Ryan and Juliana.
Thank you so much for listening. And please be sure to subscribe to our show on your favorite podcast platform.
We'll see you next time.